head coach openings remaining. We start with the team that has the #1 pick in the draft, and the Raiders.
Raiders met last night with Davis Webb, who's the Broncos quarterbacks coach. The Bills met with him earlier that day as well. So he's an interesting candidate, both those places. Raiders also talked to former Giants coach Brian Daboll over the weekend. They've talked to Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady twice. It's possible they've been connected to Klint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. Possible they wait that out. They can't hire him till after the Super Bowl now. But if the Raiders are making a decision this week, it's probably between one of those three guys I mentioned earlier. Cleveland Browns spent a good chunk of their day yesterday in Los Angeles interviewing Nate Scheelhaase, who is the Rams passing game coordinator, another young coaching prospect who's been of interest to the Browns for some time. He also talked to the Bills last night, did a virtual interview with them. If not Scheelhaase, you see here Jim Schwartz, the Browns defensive coordinator. They've interviewed him twice for the head coach job. He's interested. I think they'd like to bring in a young offensive coach and pair with Schwartz, but if they can't get the coach they want, then maybe Schwartz ends up being the coach they want. And then the Steelers are going to introduce their head coach today. He is Mike McCarthy. They hired him over the weekend after a relatively brief and concentrated interview process. They felt McCarthy was the right guy to help them continue to win now and also shepherd them into the next quarterback era of their franchise, whatever that turns out to be.
He's 62 years old, Mike McCarthy. You see the ages of the previous head coaches. We're looking at every single person to have coached the Steelers since 1969. So he's about as old as any of the two of them were combined, any two of the three of them. It's a totally different move for them.
Yeah.
And here's the way I look at it, Jeff, Saturday, and you tell me, we were talking about it on Sunday NFL Countdown. Many people believe, obviously the Steelers are not among them, the Steelers front office, that this team needs to just reset completely, just start all over again. And you don't do that with a 62-year-old head coach. And I don't care what they say, at least part of this is because they're still hoping to bring back Aaron Rodgers, because he's probably the best thing they have going for them right now. So you got a 62-year-old head coach and a 43-year-old quarterback. That's a very strange way to start rebuilding a franchise. What do you think of these moves by the Steelers?
Yeah, this ain't a rebuild. Like you just said, you don't bring in a 43-year-old QB and a 60-year-old head coach and not want to win right now, which is pretty amazing. And I would say part of why you brought McCarthy in to begin with is to develop the next quarterback. And so to bring in a 43-year-old, I don't know if they bring Rodgers back and then draft one and allow McCarthy to kind of develop him along as he watches under Aaron Rodgers. I really don't understand the move, in my opinion. This is kind of one of the more confusing hires, in my opinion. Does a team really feel like they're right on the precipice of winning a championship, competing for it? I just didn't see it. The defense is aging. They're one of the most expensive defenses in the league. Offense it wasn't there. I mean, you got one receiver. You go get more guys. I don't know. The whole thing just didn't fit great unless, to your point, it's McCarthy, Rodgers, and they think they can go on a run.
There's an element of this. Someone used the expression, they just don't seem willing to take their medicine. And look, on some level, I respect that, right? The Roonies, they're about trying to win all the time.
Yeah. And the roster needs an overhaul. I mean, like, this is an interesting move because it's a move of a team that expects to continue to be as good as it's been.
Right.
And it's possible that the head coach was holding the whole thing together and the roster is going to start to show some cracks under a different coach. Now, it's important to note, the Steelers did not fire Mike Tomlin. They would have brought him back.
Right.
So, like, this was not their top choice. The top choice was Tomlin. If you're hiring your head coach because you think it'll help you keep 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't finished in the top 22 in QBR in 5 years, that's idiotic.
Right.
I mean, that would be a top 10 stupid decision in NFL history. I don't think the Steelers did that.
Right.
I give them more credit than that.
Right.
I think they see Mike McCarthy as a better, more accomplished head coach than the other candidates they were talking to, and they know they're going to need to figure out quarterback for real at some point, and they feel like he's the kind of guy that can do that.
I agree. Maybe the way I should have said it is, it does feel like it makes it likelier to me that Rodgers comes back for one more year than if they had hired a 32-year-old coach. Now, quick final thoughts. Go ahead, Neek, and then J-Mac.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we all think that because they brought in McCarthy means that they're trying to make a push for the Super Bowl. No. They brought in someone who's stable, who they know can be a head coach. They might be willing to go into this transition. I think the reason why we believe that they aren't is because they never. That's more the evidence to me that they may not blow this up and start completely over. But the quarterback question is the future there is not going to be Aaron Rodgers, whether he comes back or not, or whether Mike McCarthy is a head coach in order to entice him back or not is irrelevant. They need to bring in a lot of other quarterbacks, including maybe drafting one and signing or trading for one to start trying to answer that question.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, you see the McCarthy, you compare his resume to John Harbaugh's, who was the hottest name on the list this offseason when it comes to head coaches. So it kind of makes sense. But I think for Steelers fans, it almost feels like Groundhog Day, where you're like, all right, we're going to bring Mike McCarthy in. What's going to be different about the 2026 Steelers that's been different from the past 5 or 6 years where they haven't been able to win a playoff game? So I think for fans, there's a lot left to be desired. And they were looking at some of those other candidates, the Weavers, the Floreses, and thought maybe those guys could come in and really shake things up.
Or one of these young guys. There's all these uber young guys that would have felt much more Steeler-like to me.
Mike McCarthy is not far removed from, 3 straight 12-win seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. The guy can coach.
Yes, of course.
But it doesn't feel like an ambitious hire. And that's, I think, what is probably deflating to the fans if that's the way they're receiving it.
All right, we will see. We'll see how they receive it as we continue from ghosts to glory.
Oh. Yeah, so I had to check in case.
There's probably Nuno saying, can you move to your left?
Nuno texts me exactly once a week, asks me if I'm okay to do a certain time on Tuesday, and I say yes. If you look at my text history with Nuno, that's all it is. That's the whole thing.
And you just respond yes every time?
Is 7:15 good? Yep. And then he thumbs ups that text, and then I hear from him again next Monday.
Very efficient.
Yeah. So there's no pleasantries. There's no, hey, I read your story. That was
good.
No,
nothing.
We're not trying to build a relationship.
He knows nothing of my work other than this 5-10 minutes every Tuesday morning.
I love that.
Okay, now to Buffalo. I believe that all of the coaches that have been hired should be hired this cycle so far. I just believe a lot of them are on the wrong teams. No, seriously.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why is Buffalo not hiring a win-now coach? Or not looking, to our knowledge, at a win-now coach?
I don't. That's a good question. I mean, what do you mean? Like, should they hire John Harbaugh? He was already hired by the time they fired their coach.
Right. So Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy, yes.
Okay. Would be a guy that theoretically would come in and say, low end, I'll give you 12. High end, I'll give you 14. I'll give you a playoff win. And Josh, if you can navigate the other few games for me, we should be good to go.
Whereas if you hire Davis Webb for his first coaching job 3 years after he stopped playing, it's a major, major risk with a team that's right on the cusp. It's a good question. I think when you look at Davis Webb, Brian Daboll, Joe Brady, who are 3 of their strong candidates right now, they all have very close relationships with Josh Allen. And it seems like Buffalo is making that some kind of priority here. Whether that's the right thing to do is certainly worth having a discussion about. But I think that's a very good point. Does Buffalo feel like Pittsburgh, I don't want to speak for Pittsburgh fans, but my guess is the way that's gone over in Pittsburgh is like, this is just sort of a safe play and not very inspirational.
Yeah, they call it Tomlin 2.0. They're not pleased at all.
Right. So, maybe Buffalo doesn't want to be in that situation. Maybe they're like, well, Sean McDermott gave us competence, gave us, we're in the divisional round of the playoffs every single year. We want something that will elevate us, so maybe we do need to throw a little bit of a Hail Mary. I mean, that may be part of their thinking, but it does seem the search has been very Josh Allen-centric so far.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had something else on that.
I was just going to say, to me, let's just use Davis Webb. He may go down as the greatest coach in the history of the NFL for all I know.
Sure.
It's just not going to be next year.
Right.
And to me, next year is the last year, is how you have to look at it, of Josh Allen. It's not actual. No, it's not actually. You're running out of time with this group as it's built. If you think this group is Super Bowl worthy, this group is not this group 2 years from now.
Right.
So you have to do it next year. And Davis Webb would then have, as an example, would have to have the single greatest first-year coaching job in the history of the sport.
In his 4th year as a coach, period.
Yeah.
Not a head coach, but
And I look at this as a negative, best of friends with the quarterback.
Right. So, yes. I mean, look, a week ago, we were talking about Sean McDermott just got fired. Like, what you want when you hire a head coach is Vrabel. You want a guy that has the building, that know. Yes, he's good at managing the game, but he's also good at running practice and setting the tone for the entire organization. There aren't 32 of those guys, right? So the Bills had one. and they fired him. So that's my point is, like, are you going to go for that again? If you already had Sean McDermott in the building, who can do all those things, proven over 9 years, had you in the playoffs 8 out of 9 years, when you didn't go for 17 before he got there. So are they trying to do something different, or are they in a position where they don't know what they're doing because maybe the owner got upset and fired a guy without thinking about it too hard? So I think it's a very interesting search that we really didn't see coming, and has been hampered a little bit by the fact that they started late. And I'm fascinated to see where it lands.
Well, speaking of giving up on people, Sam Darnold's in the Super Bowl.
Sure is.
Which team that had him in the building should regret letting him go the most?
I mean, Minnesota, obviously, given the way the year went. And I understand, like, at times,